Hello guys, it's Johnny time and welcome to another episode of the best Web3 security podcast. Today on the show we have Nikita Varabei, the CEO and co-founder of ChainPatrol. We had such an interesting conversation full of alpha, so this is something that you don't wanna miss. You will learn about Nikita's background and how he transitioned from working in Coinbase Wallet's team to founding ChainPatrol, one of the most interesting Web3 security companies out there. While most people think that most of the money that is lost in Web3 is due to smart contract exploits, actually phishing attacks and scams are taking over, and that's exactly why ChainPatrol is here. So we'll learn about the technology behind ChainPatrol, how they're able to rapidly respond to security threats in the crypto space, and we will talk about insane case studies where ChainPatrol were able to save millions of dollars of user funds. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello Nikita, how are you? Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Hey, yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me join.
Awesome. So before we dive into blockchain and client-side security, for the people who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself in like 1 to 2 minutes? What's your background?
Yeah, so my name's Nikita. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ChainPatrol. We're a security company in the crypto space. We're focused on protecting communities and organizations from phishing attacks, impersonations, basically a variety of threats that try to social engineer users, leading to either malicious transactions, stolen private keys, and these kinds of attacks. And we protect a lot of the top orgs in the space. We work with Arbitrum, Polymarket, OpenSea, and a whole bunch of others to basically safeguard their communities. For my own background a little bit, how I started ChainPatrol, I essentially, was working at Coinbase for a while. I was on the wallet team, building out a whole variety of stuff as an engineer. And the things that I saw happening very often that our team was combating a lot is we're seeing user reports coming in about, stolen funds, malicious transactions, private keys being stolen. And this is where essentially we were seeing, this is happening on like a daily or basis practically, where users are losing funds. And there was a lot of internal teams working on this. There's a security team developing out transaction simulation and a bunch of other solutions to help prevent this from happening. But I realized like something more needs to be done. And so I essentially went ahead and started ChainPatrol to really help protect the community from these kinds of attacks.
That's great introduction. Thank you. Yeah, definitely scammers getting more and more sophisticated, and it's some kind of a cat and mouse game where like we, the good guys, need to make their life harder. And your background is interesting. Are you coming from engineering background? Like when did you
Yes,
join
yeah. So
Coinbase?
I was an engineer on the Coinbase Wallet team. Before that, built other startups. Always kind of looking really how to solve problems in the space. And maybe 5 years ago or so, I got very much into the whole crypto space. I saw there just like this whole opportunity for us to really, you know, actually own the money that we have, not have it, being controlled by like um, other entities. But the problem was that, with self custody and ownership comes a lot of responsibility. And this is what really these attackers are taking advantage of, is that, if you get phished, if you get tricked, there's no like blockchain tech support. You can't call somebody up and be like, hey, like, please revert this transaction. I didn't mean to do it. And so I think I see it as a really, like, to me, this became my mission because I want crypto to grow as a whole. I want it to be the case that I'm going down to the grocery store, I'm paying with my tokens, and I'm getting a piece of bread, right? But that's not going to happen if you can lose all your funds with the click of a button. And so to me, uh, protecting users from these attacks and protecting the whole kind of crypto ecosystem is part of what needs to be done for crypto to actually reach mass adoption. Because the state that it's in right now, I honestly couldn't like recommend it for daily use to like my parents, or definitely not my grandparents. They're fairly tech savvy. Like, they use the phone daily, they browse the internet, they do a whole bunch of stuff. But the way these attacks work right now, I would just feel like it would be irresponsible, and we need to level up the security first.
100%. I mean, scammers are always sophisticated, but you said something very true, in my opinion, is that with crypto, you don't have like a call center where you can call to PayPal or to Visa and say, hey, I want you to cancel this card or block this transaction or get a chargeback or something. It doesn't happen in crypto. Once your seed phrase, recovery phrase, or keys, when they're stolen, that's it. Your money is gone. It's long gone in all the, I don't know, on the mixing, and the blockchain is moving on. So there is no way to get back the funds. And I think this is one of the reasons that scammers find it very lucrative, the crypto space, because they can get away with crimes easier than in the traditional finance world. And that's what makes your work and my work super important. But
Yeah.
before we dive into how you started in with ChainPatrol, how you founded it, how you started the company, what kind of things did you see while working in Coinbase? Because I mean, it's one of the biggest exchanges, one of the most biggest traded Web3 crypto company. So I believe that while working inside Coinbase, you see things that other crypto users, investors, developers maybe don't see. So what are the insights apart from the fact that millions of dollars are being stolen uh, from clients? What are the interesting things did you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole organization was moving very quick. I think what I really enjoyed about working there was that everybody, um, it's a company with thousands of employees, but honestly, it still felt like, operating as a startup. There was a lot, the way they organized people, the way we honestly, each person got a lot of autonomy to build things out, which I think was a very good way to keep things moving very quickly. And they were very aware of like certain issues that are coming up, right? Like, for example, on the wallet team, that users are being phished, or that like other areas across the org. Like, people were very quick to jump on problems, get them solved. I think, when you're working at a company this big, you know, I think there needs to be a lot of empathy on both sides of, both protecting the users, but also what these companies are actually trying to do to address these issues. Because sometimes, um, you see threads, or you see people calling out certain things, being like, oh, why doesn't this just get fixed? Why doesn't this problem just go away? And there's people internally dealing with, like, you know, thousands and just like an onslaught of attacks of people trying to break in. The amount of things the security team and engineers have to kind of like think through, and how carefully everything has to be built out, is at like the highest level of quality that needs to be done. And so, um I think it's a big challenge, when you work on such when you carry so much responsibility. You have so many different users, you have so many like different funds, both on, I can't speak too much on like the exchange side of things. I was more on the like the self-custodial wallet side of things. But I would say on both sides, they were trying to treat security extremely seriously. I think one interesting thing was actually that um, around the time that Wallet joined the overall Coinbase organization, um, there was a lot more focus being put on crypto education for the entire staff. Because I think what people don't realize is that a lot of these large orgs, you kind of just need more devs, you need more people working. And a lot of the times you get devs or others joining that may not have a ton of crypto experience, right? Um, and so they were actually putting in a lot of courses and learnings to actually get everybody to go and like try and mint an NFT, like do your first on-chain transaction, how like self-custody works. There was a lot of education happening. And so it's kind of interesting because even for people, whether they stayed Coinbase long term or ended up doing other things in their work, it almost became like a school for educating people on like the intricacies of what crypto and blockchain is. And so that was pretty interesting, as I think they bridge this gap between you know kind of traditional finance and people entering from very regular jobs. They are experts in their area. They're like top engineers, top salespeople, whatever area they're in. But kind of making sure that they also become experts in the crypto sphere as well.
When you said wallet team, the first thing that crossed my mind was like, okay, when you have a centralized exchange account, you get an address and then you deposit funds, and then because it's stored like it's a custody wallet, like
Yeah.
they have the crypto for you, but you refer to self custody. So I know that now they have the base chain, which is like EVM layer 2 compatible, but when you worked there was other like self custody products that you were
Yeah, so
responsible.
it's actually available right now. It's called Coinbase Wallet. It's quite a large. It's a quite a large wallet in the space. I may be biased. I like some of the UX. I built some of it. But yeah, basically it's similar to like a MetaMask or Phantom or one of these other wallets, and they've been putting a lot of resources behind it because I can't speak for their current focus, but I think from looking at Coinbase overall, they are seeing that bringing more pieces on chain is a very important part of their future, right? Like they started off as a centralized exchange, but now they have Base. Before Base, they actually had Coinbase Wallet. It's been around for a while already. Um, they're also now doing things where, like, for example, they're working with Morpho. Morpho's providing certain DeFi rails in the background for some of the new Coinbase products. And so I think they're realizing that, you know, again, like I was saying before, there's this gap blurring between, like, yes, they're an exchange, but they see that, there's definite
Everything goes on
benefits to what's
chain.
happening on chain. Yeah.
Yeah, everything goes on chain and permissionless, so they want to play a
Yeah.
part. And I think they also believe in its future and that it should be on chain eventually.
Yeah.
Not everything should
100%.
be custodial. Cool, interesting. And when you were working in the wallet team, you saw all kinds of scams, right? I guess you saw all kinds of clients that probably calling a call center of Coinbase or whatever, opening support tickets of our holder money got drained because they clicked some kind of link, they left their seed phrase, they signed a transaction. So, what kind of interesting phishing techniques or scam techniques did you see? And if you can share some numbers of like how much money did you see that was lost or hacked through the time that made you the realization that there is a problem here that needs to be solved in another level and made you kind of like initiate or start ChainPatrol?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, when we were working on this, like from what I've seen, there is, um, there was all sorts of attacks coming in. I think one interesting point is that, like, despite it being one of the simplest, it is still the highest loss of funds, which is compromised private keys. And basically, this is like your seed phrase getting stolen. Now, this can happen in a very simple way. There's still tons of scams that are actively getting users. They basically just like open up a fake page to like restore your wallet, or that you want access to a new DeFi protocol. They're like, please enter your seed phrase to use this protocol. And it's people literally just entering their seed phrases into websites. Like, this is still a very, very um um high portion, like way more than you would expect, portion
Legal.
of stolen funds. And then you have the um there's stolen seed phrases through the simple way of, like, you just literally give your seed phrase to a website. Then there's the more complex way of doing it, We're seeing a lot of this happening now where you get on a call with somebody and they get you to download some new Zoom app, some Zoom app, or some new video calling app, right? And what you're doing is you're really downloading malware, right? Um, a while ago, there was also like a lot of PDF attacks. I haven't heard of these happening as much recently, but like PDFs can actually execute various forms of code if you don't like run them securely. And so there have been cases where people had their seed phrases stolen by basically just like opening the wrong PDF. So that's fairly scary. And then there's the big one is also like malicious transactions. When I was working there, malicious transactions was one of the top things that the teams there were focused on. They very quickly built out their own simulation in house. They've also worked with a lot of other companies in the space on this as well. It's basically you know uh like 2-3 years ago, their transaction simulation like almost like did not exist. Like there was a couple of extensions that were starting to do it, but most people were still just blind signing like whatever whatever transaction you got. Which is, I think, a great outcome over the last couple of years, is that almost every major wallet you might use now has transaction simulation. Actually tells you like, hey, if you sign this, you'll get this NFT, you'll lose this much, ETH, because okay, that's the price you paid. Or if you do this swap, this is what the outcome will be. But it's a very tricky game because there are still ways to kind of um in some cases work around transaction simulations. Um, One interesting case, this is from somebody else's talk I saw, but um, where you'd be interacting with the Uniswap contract, but in Uniswap you can actually, I don't know if it's the case in the latest version, but at the time you could you have a from address and a to address when you're
So
swapping,
yeah, so
and
is
the
the
to
from
address
up?
isn't always your address. It could be somebody else's address. So it looks like so you are interacting with the official Uniswap contract, but the to address isn't back to yourself. It's to a scammer's wallet. So the swap will just so even a very simple case like that, if you don't account for it and if you don't accurately show it to the user, can be very misleading, right? Because you show a big check mark, you're like you're on official Uniswap, you're swapping this token, you're getting this token, right? But it's actually going to a different address, right? And so there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in that space still. There's still a lot of companies working on that. Um, but I think transaction simulation has improved so much that now a lot of attackers, one, good old private key thefts are still the highest source of loss, and attackers are moving to things like today we're seeing things like the Telegram bots. You go to the fake Telegram bot, it tells you, hey, run this command to verify, and it literally tells you to copy a command and paste it in your Windows PowerShell, and you're like, why am I opening PowerShell? Why am I running commands? No, people don't question this for some reason, and what it does is it just with admin privileges installs malware on your computer and then steals all your private keys. So I think it's kind of interesting. I think over time we might see this like private key theft maybe broken down into sections, because right now it's like the biggest one. But I think there's an opportunity to look at that in terms of like, okay, this amount of people actually just put it into a website. This amount of people downloaded malware. This amount of people, I don't know, had maybe like somebody access their device physically, or like had like somebody like some. There's also cases, honestly, where just like family members or like girlfriends or other people, honestly, that are just accessing people's computers and stealing things as well. That's more rare, but happens as well.
Wow, there's so many techniques, and most people tend to believe that most of the money is being lost due smart contract hacks and DeFi protocols getting hacked. But it's still big portion of the funds. But I think a way bigger portion is just simple stolen private keys, malicious transactions, or what we like to call client-side security. I'm
Yeah.
coming from the traditional cybersecurity world, and we usually divide it to server-side security and client-side security, and it's quite equivalent to kind of smart contract security, or like Also, server side is when like an exchange multi-sig wallet gets hacked, or what happened with the multi-chain bridge hack, or we don't know if it's hack or the Chinese government took the money. We don't really know, but it's kind of the server side hacks and the client side hacks, because eventually you have self custody, you possess control on your funds, and there are so many different techniques. You just mentioned some of them, but I think it's 100 different of techniques. Like, but I think we can also classify them and categorize them, like you said, private key slash seed phrase or malicious
Yeah.
transactions. I heard about another one, like you said, people call you and they scam you on the phone, but instead of trying to steal your seed phrase, they're kind of telling you, hey, your Coinbase or Binance account is going to be shut down because of regulation, or so on and so forth. Hey, we generated for you a new seed phrase. We will help you migrate it to the new system.
Yeah.
Use seed phrase, create a new MetaMask wallet, withdraw your funds, and of course, they have a bot running automatically, monitors the moment funds are getting into your wallet. They're
Yeah,
being trained.
this is something that's quite common, you even have to be careful. We actually took down a lot of these, but like for some of our customers that we work with, you could search things. We protect MetaMask, for example, and for a while, if you would search like MetaMask phone support, the top articles that would come up would actually be fake articles that lead you to phone numbers that if you called that phone number, they would lead to a malicious, like they would lead you to a caller that basically is a scammer and will steal your funds. Um, we worked with them to basically make sure that we're constantly monitoring and taking these down. Uh, and so that's something that we basically went ahead and made sure that we could go through and get these all these articles taken down, and we're constantly monitoring these attacks to make sure that you know if you're trying to figure out how do I contact support, you're not actually getting in touch with a scammer. These there's this whole area actually of attacks or like theft, really called pig butchering. This is honestly something nobody in the security space is very actively dealing with right now. This is more the area of maybe like law enforcement is going after this a bit. But essentially, it's an area where um, you know, people are, this is somebody goes out and you visit an investment site and you put money in there and it looks like everything's going well. It all looks like a legitimate company. It's not even impersonating like some existing crypto protocol or an exchange or somebody else. You think you're going into some like money manager. You're basically putting your money in. You can check your balance. Everything looks good. Sometimes if you try to withdraw, they might even let you withdraw some portion of it. Um, but really, all the money is essentially like everything you see is like fake. You'll see numbers moving. You'll see like APYs and like money going up, and then they'll get you to put more money and more money, and they might not steal anything for like a year or two from you. They're just like they are your money manager. You just
Trust.
keep investing.
They're building trust.
Exactly. And so all they do is that they just, because typically when people invest, they don't take that money out for quite a while, right? And so that's why it's called essentially pig butchering, is because they're kind of like fattening you up slowly, getting all the money. And then, if you ever have issues, they either just disappear or they start to scare you into getting them even more money, right? They're like, oh, there's an issue with your account, you need to send some more money to like unfreeze it or clear this blockage. This is when like they're starting to clean up. This is when they're starting to clean up because like they're like, okay, well, this person's caught on. It's time to just extract as much as possible and get out. And this is an area that's like very hard to deal with right now. And honestly, like almost no security company is even looking into this right now because um, it's outside of like user education and tracking down the actual attackers. This is one of the areas that's the hardest to deal with because it's built purely on trust. It's not a hack, it's not even impersonation of an existing company. It's just a completely normal looking new entity that's been created.
That's interesting. Like the more advanced like they are like conning people for long term. They are building the trust, and then once there is more trust, people are willing to deposit more and more money,
Yep.
and it's really hard to detect. So I sorry for stealing your attention for a second. I just shared here on the chat one of the most common comments on my YouTube videos recently, which is another technique. I think I shared it with you in our previous conversation, where they just tell, "Hey, I got my this and that MetaMask OKX wallet, and I want help to recover some funds. Here is the seed phrase," and then they post the seed phrase literally as a comment on my YouTube videos, and people try to, "Hey, there is a seed phrase here. Let's try to see what's inside." They create a new MetaMask wallet, they recover this seed phrase, and they see, I don't know, maybe 100 USDT inside, but maybe it's like a block list USDT, so you cannot transfer it. And they try to transfer some ETH on whatever chain the money is to withdraw it. And of course, there is a bot waiting for ETH to come in to steal it right away. So
Yeah.
that's another common scam that now all over my YouTube comments, you have all kinds of accounts just commenting different variations of messages, but they all look the same.
Yeah, it's like essentially like a honeypot wallet, right? They make you think there's funds you can get out, but really what they're just waiting is for you to get funds in there, and then they have a bot waiting to drain them immediately.
Yeah, yeah. So we understand that the risks are there. The risks are there, huge numbers when it comes to stolen funds from users, and that's what led you to start Chain Patrol. And how do you guys in Chain Patrol are mitigating those risks? How are you able to decrease this number of how much money is being stolen from users in Web3?
Yeah, so the area we're really focused in is when it comes to like impersonation and the phishing attacks. Almost every major, crypto project you follow, if you look on X or on Twitter, like in their comment section, you probably see like, the end of thread message, and then right after that, hey, claim your airdrop here. If you're looking at like, like Optimism's Twitter, Arbitrum's, or others, like a whole bunch of other orgs in the space, they all have these scammers trying to target them because they know that, their brand is big, they have a lot of reach, and if you mislead their community, you can get them to go and um click on a link that will try to steal that will then trigger a malicious transaction. Most of the time it's a malicious transaction, but sometimes it just asks you for a seed phrase, and then sometimes it
That will
gives
all
you
kinds.
malware.
Yeah. So there, it's if we look at a scam, we can divide it to stages. First, it's the reach. You need to reach the right audience.
Yeah.
So there are scams that are targeting obviously crypto degens, investors. There are scams that are targeting developers. All these kind of new recruiters and LinkedIn that come and offer you 200K per year, your dream job. Just 3 hours a day commitment to check a DeFi project, and then you install a new GitHub repository. You run some arbitrary code on your machine, and then all your seed phrase and .n files are being stolen and your wallets get drained. So there is like, first they detect the audience that they want to kind of spearfish, fish slash
Yeah.
spearfish. Then they try to get this exposure, whether it's through Twitter, through search engine results, through YouTube comments, through malicious fake videos. Sometimes even I see them on my Twitter feed as ads. So they
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
the filter of Twitter ads, and that's insane, to be honest. Because I mean, usually it's supposed to be quite strict, right? It's supposed to be
Yeah.
pay money with credit cards attached to the account with some kind of KYC or blue check marks, but it still somehow are able to bypass all those kind of defense mechanisms. Um,
Yeah. Well, one thing on the blue check marks and even the gold check marks is, there's tons of those accounts are hacked, right? So one, KYC is nobody has a perfect KYC system. Like those have been bypassed for ages now. But even if you had a perfect KYC system, you have a regular user, they go get KYC'd, and then they get their account hacked. Now you have access to a legitimate looking account, right? And so what we see very often is, you'll get gold checkmark accounts hacked. Um, I think it's honestly two separate actors. I think there's people just hacking Twitter accounts and selling them, and then there's people buying them to run these scams. And so, a couple years back when we looked, I don't know what the market price right now is, but it was about 10K for a gold checkmark account, like to buy a gold checkmark account. Um, and what they do is they just buy this account, change the profile pic, change the name, and then either run their ads or they go start commenting on the target, the target organization's posts. And so even if you look in the replies and you see, oh wait, this is like Eigenlayer making this post, and it's got the gold check mark, and I see, oh, claim there's a season 3 claim now, and I click it, and then your money's gone, right? And so, um, and I'm also not trying to call out any one individual company here. It's literally like happens to every major like crypto protocol out there. Like, um, what we do is we have a system that goes and it basically monitors all of these replies. We basically have like how what we actually do to help combat these attacks is essentially one is real-time detection. So this is a very important first step. It's finding these attacks as quickly as you possibly can. So we have bots that are constantly monitoring our customers' replies on Twitter, monitoring Twitter search results and trending topics. The moment we run some image recognition, we run some LLMs to parse the content. We run some wallet drainer code detection. So we navigate to the actual link being shared. We run wallet drainer code detection on there, looking for things like Inferno Drainer or Ace Drainer, but a bunch of these others that are popular out there. Um, and then we basically, once it's detected, it gets auto-reported into our system. Our system runs a whole bunch of additional checks throughout to make sure that this is actually malicious. And in some cases, we either automatically blocklist it, or in some cases, we also have a bunch of threat hunters, which are people on our team that look at more advanced cases where maybe not all of the automated checks pass, but you need a deeper look. We also have people looking at these threats. And so what happens there is basically the moment that we determine, okay, this is a scam Twitter account, it's posted this malicious link, that link goes on a block list. We have a block list of domains that goes out to over 20 different crypto wallets out there, Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, Phantom, a whole bunch of others that we work with. This block list goes out to all of these wallets, and within a couple of minutes of us detecting that scam, any user clicking it actually gets a big warning. If you've ever seen this, before it was this big red screen. Now they've made it like a black screen on MetaMask, or Coinbase and Phantom have similar screens. If you've seen it, that's very highly it either came from us or through this initiative called Seal. So we're heavy contributors into Seal, or the Security Alliance, where they're essentially bringing in a ton of malicious domains and gathering them up and also sharing it out to all these different wallets and security partners. And so we're all kind of working together to just basically send this threat intel out as far and wide as possible. We also collaborate with MetaMask on what's known as ETH phishing detect. This is really ETH phishing detect is kind of like how it all started. I can go into it a little bit more, but essentially it's just a huge GitHub repo of phishing threats that MetaMask kind of started. And that was initially just going into the MetaMask block list. But over time, more wallets started to pick up. Now a bunch of wallets use them. So we contribute directly into ETH phishing detect, but we also have our own APIs being consumed by wallets as well. And so really so when we get that fake domain, the goal is really how do we get it in front, how do we get it blocklisted for as many users as possible? And this is something interesting about the crypto space in general, is that a lot of people are willing to collaborate on threat intel and share threat intel and have it moved around very quickly. And this actually lets us keep pace with the attackers, because I think an old security mindset is that, I kind of need to hoard my data. My data is and this is like a company startup advice thing in general. It's like, oh, data is like digital gold. You need to hold on to it. And I get that to some extent for some companies. But when you're talking about threat actors, hoarding threat intel is what makes the actor, like the attacker, laugh, because they are moving fast, they're hitting different systems, different people, while the security experts can't even communicate properly because of certain ways of thinking. And so I think what we're doing, what Seal's doing, what Eat Phishing Detect is doing, and a bunch of other people in the space, is we're creating this network of collaborators, and it's helped a ton in terms of actually protecting users from these attacks.
That's incredible, man. I'm super excited listening to you because I know that defense is way harder than attack because again, I'm coming from traditional cybersecurity, and in order to attack, you just need to find one hole in the system or exploit one small social engineering concept in someone, and that's it. It's gone. But like your product name, ChainPatrol, you literally need to patrol everywhere in social media, in search engines, in other like different forms of social
Yeah,
media
we
video.
monitor areas like we also monitor areas. So actually, on the detection, I can add a little bit. There is that I mentioned the Twitter case specifically, but we're also monitor things like, for example, we use sources like SearchStream and some other places that essentially give us a view of all domains that go live. Like basically, the moment a new website gets an SSL certificate, we know about it and we scan that site to check if it has malicious content. There's other sources of like that show you like kind of like what new domains go live. And so there's about a bit over 1 million domains that need to get scanned daily. And we kind of look through all of them to see like, are they impersonating a well-known org in the crypto space? Are they hosting wallet trainer code? Are they, do they have signs of like visual image recognition similarity to a known site that might be a sign of impersonation? So, yeah, there's a lot of scanning. Like you're saying, really, we're kind of like patrolling the whole internet to find these scammers.
You're literally patrolling through social media, through domains that look similar. And it's not only patrolling because you need to detect and you want to prevent false positives, because then you can block legitimate domains and legitimate products or Twitter accounts. And also you need to make sure that you get exposure, right? So once you find something malicious, as many people avoid it, because I'm sure that some people use these specific wallets that don't use your APIs or the ETH phishing repository and so on. So what would you say the most challenging part to do the monitoring, to understand, like to get all this data and fetch all this data? Maybe it's the analysis, like to determine whether it's a malicious or not malicious domain or website or tool, or the distribution to make sure that all the wallets and most of the users will be defended against this kind of scam.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially one of the biggest challenges was distribution. I think we've um come closer to solving that. It's like a never ending thing because there's always more and more like new wallets, new um we also work with, for example, like Google Safe Browsing. We actually send our data to Google Safe Browsing. They have their own review process, but most of what we send gets accepted. And what that means is then that scam actually gets blocked by Chrome itself, by Edge, by Firefox, by like Gmail. Um, and so that actually gets an even wider reach. And doing all of this took a long time. Like how it started was like I was manually making PRs into ETH Phishing Detect at the start of ChainPatrol for like months. I was like every day we would get a bunch of scams, make a PR into ETH Phishing Detect, and then ask somebody on the MetaMask team to review it. And they have staff like just constantly monitoring this repo, making sure that the scams get reviewed accurately, and we built up a reputation to them. I then kind of automated the PRs after a while, and now we're a core contributor into ETH Phishing Attack, where we just like add things directly in because we've shown that we have an extremely low false positive rate, and we very carefully review everything that we that we actually find as malicious. And then um, so that was, I think, the most challenging initially. But now I would say the most really long term, the most difficult thing is accurate reviewing and detection, because these scammers are constantly finding new ways to hide themselves. Like, broadly speaking, it's something known as like a cloaking techniques, and basically there's a whole bunch of ways scammers try to hide their malicious activity. For example, a very basic cloaking technique is, you go to something like, um, arbairdrop.com. Don't go there, it's a scam site. But you go there, you open it, and it's actually showing you a blog post for cooking. You go there and you're like, well, this doesn't look malicious. Okay, maybe the domain's suspicious. But if you weren't looking at the domain and you're just looking at the site, you're like, well, this is somebody's cooking blog. But if you go to but if you then visit that site, but you have a certain query parameter with like a question mark, Google tag ID like 1234, then it actually serves you server side, renders you a different page that shows the actual malicious content. And so if your automated system tries to just visit the site, view it, and determine, is this impersonating a crypto company, you'd be like, well, no, this is a cooking site. No issue found. But you need to have actually found the original Google ad that had the posting that when you click it, it navigates you to that specific page, and then the site will render you the actual malicious content. And so that's like a very basic one, but it's actually fairly to solve it is actually, for the scammer it's kind of easy to set up, but for you as the protector, it actually now means you have to scan so much more deeply.
Yeah, you need the full URL, either that or analyze the client side, the initial client side code that you get in the GET or POST request, and then see if there is some kind. I don't know if you do this kind of level of analysis of analyzing the JavaScript that does the redirect or presents the different content on the page.
Yeah, so there's two things. So one is that we do analyze the JavaScript, and sometimes it is client side, but this kind of cloaking can be done entirely server side. Because if the end server just says, hey, if you're visiting with this query param, serve this page, and if you're visiting with this query without it, serve the cloaking page, there's no front end way of detecting it.
You just need to find the full URL and then just
yeah,
use
and
it.
to find the full URL, that means now you have to deeply crawl Google search results, Twitter ads, Twitter search, you basically need to find every possible place. You have to monitor every possible place where that kind of payload, which is the malicious link, might be delivered to the end user. This is actually part of why I just wanted to make a quick point on community reporting. Community reporting, we have lots of ways for users to report scams to us. And this is extremely, extremely important because in the end, the attacker has to reach a real user. And that means the real user that got the scam link, they have the uncloaked version. So if they report that version to us, we can protect so many more people from getting hit by this attack. And so that's why we always work on a lot of tools to make sure it's easy for users to report, because if a person can report the scam, we can protect a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure they also rotate these kind of get params, query params, and there's all kinds of. It's like cat and mouse game, and it actually is. It's not something new. It's something that comes from traditional Web2 scamming. I'm in the industry for a while, and I was doing SEO and all those kind of things, and I heard about those techniques back then. So it's just the same scammers. They just like move to crypto because it's easier and you can get away easier in an easy way.
Yeah, and you can just steal and the prize pool is so much bigger, right? Because I think that's why we're seeing so many threat actors in the space. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if it'll happen again because now just like crypto has grown so big, but in the past kind of couple of cycles, you could see that anytime crypto prices would go down, the scam activity would go down as well. And the moment the crypto prices go back up, the scam activity picks up again, because like they see people are actively in the space. There's lots of money to make. There's lots of FOMO. And now we're just seeing them constantly. I think they're kind of like rotating between targeting like traditional businesses and crypto businesses, but now more and more just like crypto is just such a big lucrative target now that we're just seeing them consistently in the space.
Yeah, and this is just one of the, you just presented one clocking techniques. I'm sure there are so many more. Just another one that crossed my mind is like maybe detecting whether there is a MetaMask extension or Phantom
Yeah.
wallet installed. So you need to write the whole driver of a browser and visit the page, like literally simulate a browser. You cannot just perform a get or post request to the domain and expect to get the malicious code.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's some tools we use to help with automating these checks in a way where the browser actually has set up like a wallet or other things that the scam is looking for. It's funny, some of the scams we find, they actually one of them has this function called like is poor user, like as in like do you have a low amount of, like they not only check for your address, but when
No address.
you but they check how much like money you have, and they won't scam you if you don't have at least like 4 ETH or something, um because they're like it's kind of like not worth it, and they don't want to give up this scam. They would rather just
And if
target the whales.
yeah. So it's interesting. And do you have some statistics and numbers of like how much money were you able to save, or like how hard you made those scammers' life? Since
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say the amount saved because we don't do any kind of tracing, and this is for privacy reasons, but we don't track um what the user might have signed, or we don't do any kind of like client side tracking of the user, and that's actually important for actually end user privacy reasons. But we do have some numbers. We're approaching like something a bit over like 400,000 domains blocked. Then there's additional threats. There's like Twitter profiles, Telegram, and others. Um, so that's like that's just in like 2 years of it's actually operating. We are seeing that. What we do see is that when we start working with a certain organization, if they had an extremely high threat volume, after a while it starts to drop back down. They still get some spray and pray people targeting them, but we notice that the scammers start to try and target other companies more, because they're like, well, the ROI is just not there, right? Because we do have some like hard numbers, you could say, I guess, or like at least averages. One is that like anytime we see a Twitter threat, we typically detect it within about 20 minutes. So if it's detected within 20 minutes, and then the time from us detecting the malicious domain to us to it being blocklisted by wallets is an average 5 to 10 minutes. So now within about, that means any scam post created is blocklisted by wallets within about 30 minutes. That's like really shrunk down this window of opportunity for the scammer, because now they need to make sure that they find the right post to put their scam on. They need to post it there, and they need to hope the user sees it and signs it within the first 30 minutes of them doing this. Otherwise, they'll get a warning and they'll get blocklisted, right? So, um, uh, that's I think an um interesting thing that we've done, because before the window for them was like days or weeks, because people would try to still take these websites down, but it's a much lengthier process, and our goal is to keep shrinking that. Right now we're working on doing these scans much faster, doing the detections faster. Like my goal is that we can get it to the point where anytime a scam is posted, within a minute we know that it exists and it's blocklisted. That would be ideal, because that gives the scammer basically no more window of opportunity for these attacks.
That's incredible. Um, yeah, that's insane, because that's another saying that I heard in traditional cybersecurity, you cannot really prevent attacker from hacking you. You can just make his life harder, so he will pick another target, and that's exactly what you are doing. So the clients that are working with you, you can literally see that the threats graph is declining, and the attackers just choose to attack other clients and other organizations because it's way more profitable. They need to invest less money, less resources, and the attack can last way longer
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
an
a lot.
economic game for the attackers. Yeah.
Exactly. And what would you say the most interesting technique that you were able to block recently? Something like fresh, like something advanced that attackers are evolving and that you were able to block it and stop a huge client-side hacking campaign?
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe an interesting case is the uh we've seen all the compromises of like Twitter accounts, Discord admins. This is like the very classic, a big crypto project gets their Twitter hacked or gets their X account hacked, and then like just starts posting malicious links. Or the Discord admin gets hacked. Discord has like 300K users in that server, and they're all start getting spammed. Hey, this like we've just released our TGE is starting now, or like whatever it is. And so one interesting case I would say there is that we've been protecting ZK Sync for a while, and there was a Discord admin that got compromised and started sharing phishing links. However, our system had actually caught those phishing links many hours before, while they were still being registered and spun up. And so the scammer, even though they managed to get access to the Discord admin and started tagging like hundreds of thousands of people in the Discord, there were basically no funds lost because our warnings were shown to all the youth. Like everybody clicking that link would get a warning. The scammer then, what they do when they realize, oh wait, this is blocklisted, I'm not getting any money, they try to rotate it, right? They usually pre-buy like 50 to 100 domains and they rotate through them. But our system has actually caught all their rotations as well. And so even as they're trying to change a link, post it in different places, basically like this is even as they're trying to post it in different places, this is an area that they've already gotten. Basically like we prevented this kind of compromise from having any sort of like impact on the user base. So similar things has happened across a bunch of like Twitter hacks and other areas. Even for people like not our customers, we will often if somebody just lets us know that like, hey, your Twitter's been hacked, we'll like jump on it very quickly. You can just send us a message like, and we'll set up a monitor for that Twitter account. Anytime it posts something new, it'll get auto blocklisted. So even while the account recovery is happening, um, funds aren't being stolen from the users. This is on the Twitter compromises, um, and the Discord compromises. The other thing I guess is just around the volumes of these attacks. Sometimes we've had similar cases for Curve and ZK Sync and some others. When they make big announcements, the scammers come in huge volume. For ZK Sync, for example, there was one point where we detected and took down like 1,500 Twitter accounts in a single day. This is what the peak of the announcement of the ZK Nation kind of airdrop is, that there was such a huge spike in attacks for about a week. There was literally hundreds of fake accounts being created every day, and it spiked out at over 1K. So seeing that was pretty crazy. And I was just very glad that we're communicating very closely with their team, but also the fact that we're just able to actually catch all these attacks, get them blocklisted, and then also the accounts taken down.
Amazing. So you obviously provide a lot of value to the Web3 space, and you mentioned that you have different clients. I'm wondering what's the business model behind ChainPatrol, because it's a company, and of course there is like some kind of business model. You guys have expenses and you also have income. So can you shed some light around like how does it work?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we work like basically a software product. We typically do like a yearly contract with any company that we work with. And really it's yearly contract, monthly kind of pricing. It's like paying for a SaaS, and so we vary the pricing. We work with projects of all sizes. I think this is actually an important point to note is that the small communities get targeted heavily as well. And we have many projects like very early stages that we're working with and have found a lot of value in having the protection. And they're obviously not paying the same prices as like an Arbitrum or a Consensus or somebody else, right? Um, and so we vary basically the pricing based off like community size, like TVL, like basically the size of the org that we're protecting. This is something we really need to talk to the org to get like an exact quote, but everybody's found that like it's quite reasonable and they get a lot of value out of it. So practically everybody we've talked to, they've ended up honestly joining on board once they know like what we're doing. Um, Only some projects that are like super early stage have been like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll need this once our community's a little bit bigger. And the value prop um, for the organization itself is that, look, um, one, it's protecting your reputation and your community base, right? You protecting your users is extremely important because you're already doing like each L2, each DeFi protocol, they're putting in so much work to get users to on their plat or like on their protocol. Um, and if that user gets scammed, they're gone from your ecosystem. They're probably gone from crypto in general, but you're like hemorrhaging users then at that point, right? Um, and so that's something that you need to make sure that you're not you want to work to get the users, but then you don't want to lose them from your ecosystem. And then there's also things like not just like lost TVL or lost revenue moving through your protocol because if the scammer hits one of your whales and steals 2 million, they're not going to continue depositing or LPing for you
They're,
or whatever it is.
they're gonna take this money, mix it, and buy yacht anywhere somewhere
Yeah,
or
exactly. And so it's something that's just being drained from the ecosystem as a whole, right? Um and then we found that users value this very much. Most protocols that we work with now, what we do is we typically do like a joint announcement saying like, "Hey, like X is now working, like this org is now working with Chain Patrol," and then we also empower their users to do more. So we share educational material. We have bots on Discord and Telegram and Slack where any of your either team members or community members can report these scams. They also prevent scammers from entering from sharing like malicious links in your Discord and your Telegram. And so the community feels like they can get more involved and actually because they see this, right? Like they open Twitter, they scroll in the thing, they see the scams, like they know this is happening. Um, and I think the final point on that is that it unclogs your whole marketing initiative. Because think about this. You want to reach your users with an email marketing campaign, right? Like you want to send your latest announcements to your users. But your users are afraid because they just got 5 more emails from quote unquote your company saying there's an airdrop with a phishing link, right? And so now how are they going to open up any email from you? Like honestly, I think my personal email linked on the internet somewhere on a couple of places, and it's just infested with these like fake crypto emails now, right? And so at this point, it's like I can't interact with any email from a crypto company, and I think that's if this problem isn't addressed very seriously across like many areas of the stack, we're going to be in a place where communication is going to get strangled because users will know, well, I'm not allowed to open emails. I shouldn't even like click links on Twitter. I shouldn't open my DMs from anybody new because they might also be a scammer and impersonator. Well, it's like, how do you even communicate at that point, right? And so I think it's really important that we reestablish like ways to more just easily communicate between people without being afraid of having your money stolen. There's part of it is on user education, but I think it's really much more on the companies that are building in the space to do something about it.
It's genius business plan. I'm sold. I would buy your product or invest in your company because it's like just pure value to the ecosystem, and it's also a win-win-win situation because it's now clear what is the incentive of the L2s or DeFi app to prevent those kind of scams, and obviously the users getting tons of value for free, right?
Yep.
Because it's getting all these wars between scammers and ChainPatrol or other products that are doing similar things are happening in the background, but eventually the winners are the users and every one of us, that we get to trust more in the ecosystem, in protocols, in chains, and so on. So that's blessed. And I'm wondering, like, how big is your company? How many people are working in ChainPatrol, and what kind of roles do you have? Because most of my followers are technical people, I would say. Like, it's either smart contract engineers or security researchers. Some of them are DeFi investors. And I'm wondering, what kind of roles do you have? Do you currently hire people? I'm sure that some of the people that are listening right now got curious and maybe they want to shift their profession from server side smart contract security to client side security. Both are important equally, in my opinion. And so, if you can just explain a little bit what kind of people work in ChainPatrol, how big is the company, and what kind of talent you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're a bit over 20 people right now. This includes like engineers, co-founders, like sales staff, marketing staff, and also a team of threat
Small
hunters.
company doing so much, such a small company doing so much. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I think it's really about having like very dense talent and being very focused in what we do, right? There's a lot of, I think, companies that they start to build in a space and they start to branch out a lot. We're very focused on this core problem because even though we're, I think, have put a dent in it, I think we're nowhere even near close to like actually solving this problem yet. And so there's a lot of work to be done only in phishing, only in impersonation. And so, and I think it's a fundamental issue for the entire internet to essentially, solve impersonation and solve phishing attacks because long term, this is going to be like a kind of a virus that infects the entire internet. And we're not even talking yet about, you know, automated phishing like attacks. I think to be honest, like, this is just one thing I want to bring up very quickly is that I think we're going to reach a point where we're going to have an AI that has its own wallet, that can pay for server space, that can pay for hosting because there's already hosting providers that accept crypto, and that knows how to deploy phishing sites. It can be essentially become entirely self-sustaining off stealing money. And if it doesn't have, it doesn't have any sort of moral system built into it, it can essentially, we're going to have, it's kind of, how we have bacteria and viruses. They just live on us, on animals, they infect things, and they're just self-propelling. I think we're going to start to see this. So even if every human being in the world suddenly became a saint and stopped scamming people, if even one of these AIs gets created,
Not gonna happen. Let's face it, which is not gonna happen. Probably
yeah, yeah.
be scammers.
But we're also going to see just such a multiplication of these attacks, right? Whereas before, there's like holes in places, and because there's not enough people doing these attacks, somebody's not even looking at that hole. If the AI is self-replicating, every hole will be like essentially examined and poked and prodded for vulnerabilities. And so I think that's coming, and I think that's why we're building a lot of automated systems for like what is the next layer of attacks that's going to be coming. For this, if you're looking to join Chain Patrol, one of the things we're really looking for is like very talented top level engineers to join the company. You know, honestly, you just need to be a great engineer. If you have some cyber expertise, awesome. But you know, back end like system, like just like mass processing systems. If you have any background in like data or AI, that's also very helpful. Um, you know, honestly, if you're just a person that is down to like code all day, all night, and just solve problems and just get shit done, you know, you will thrive here, and that's the kind of people we're looking for. We have engineers that are doing a ton of great work that have zero cybersecurity background, but just because they are constantly focused on problem solving, we've honestly found solutions to issues with these attacks that I think are actually benefiting from the fact that people are coming at it with fresh eyes. And then if you have backgrounds in any sort of like on-chain tracing, on-chain tracking of these attacks, we're also looking for that. That's very helpful. It's something that's important to us. Um, and then so basically we're just really looking for people that can develop quickly, learn quickly, have like a fire in them, because honestly, startup environment moves very fast. You have to be, you know, ready to be in the fire all day long, but it's also extremely rewarding. So, there's that. We're also looking for like people in sales and in other areas as well to join the product. If you've listened to this podcast, I hope you would think that it sells itself, which it does quite well. And so we're just looking to expand that area as well. So yeah, basically reach out. You can to Nikita at ChainPatrol, and that's, you know, a great way to get in touch.
Amazing. So you already kind of answered my next question, which is like, how do you believe that the tactics of scammers is going to evolve? And you kind of answered it differently, like that you think that the next scammers are going to be autonomous AI agent scammers, which is even scarier than just human scammers, which is
Yeah,
something
well,
I
I
never.
think I think the first wave will be the human scammers evolving, and they're always going to continue to evolve. One, like we're already seeing them themselves using all these AI tools, right? Like the rate at which websites and can be cloned is very fast now. I think the other thing is that now attackers aren't just copy pasting an existing website, but they're making a completely new site that still looks like the legitimate company. So you might think you're interacting with some major crypto protocol, but it's a completely custom made site. And this is an attempt to um, kind of get around the image recognition and code similarity comparisons that are happening. Because to a user, they still think they're using like a popular DeFi protocol, but but it actually doesn't look like the original site. Um, there's also lots of more cloaking techniques. There's also kind of like a CAPTCHA war going on, because the scammers use CAPTCHAs to try and prevent us from crawling them. But there's also legitimate uses for CAPTCHAs, and then there's illegitimate uses, I would say, for CAPTCHAs. And so both CAPTCHAs are becoming much better, but us and other people are working on a lot of ways to also solve CAPTCHAs faster so that we can scan the targets we're going after. Um, and so cloaking techniques are going to improve a lot more, and so working to solve them is going to be important. um and then more and more impersonation attacks. We're just seeing these like everywhere now. There's the fake recruiters reaching out to you with a job offer. There's fake VCs reaching out to founders, offering to get on a call because, you know, they think their company is just so exciting and they want to put money in, and then actually your money all gets stolen. And then we have the fake, you know, news companies that reach out to you because they want to do a PR kind of setup. They want to interview or whatever. Um, and so honestly, this is just kind of like proliferating so much because it's so easy to generate AI avatars now, to generate profiles. Half of these might honestly be chatbots you're talking to. I don't know if they're all even like scammers, or you're just talking to like ChatGPT wrapper or something, right? Um, but what we're seeing is that, honestly, even in just my personal life, almost everybody across like my family and my close friends has now had an experience with one of these.
Everywhere. They're
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah.
on your LinkedIn DMs, on Twitter ads, on the comment section, on YouTube, in Google search results, everywhere.
Yep.
And you guys are doing incredible work of like fighting those scammers, and that's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It was super interesting and insightful. It's refreshing to talk sometimes on the other things like the client side, which is not less important than the server side or smart contract security side of things. So again, it was a pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah, it
much
was
for
great. It was great being here.